Welcome to this class. In this opportunity, you are going to learn how to figure out the main ideas in paragraphs that have no topic sentence. Let's start with some definitions. First, let's define main idea. The Monterey Peninsula College Reading Center defines the main idea as the central point or thought the author wants to communicate to readers. The main idea answers the question, what does the author want me to know about the topic, or what is the author teaching me? Often, the author states the main idea in a single sentence. In paragraphs, a stated main idea is called the topic sentence. In an article, the stated main idea is called the thesis statement. Now let's define implied main ideas. The Reading Center of the Monterey Peninsula College website states that when the author does not state the main idea directly, it is called an implied main idea. An implied main idea requires you to look at the specific statements in the paragraph and consider what idea they suggest. Let's continue talking about implied main ideas. In his book, 10 Steps to Building College Reading Skills, Langan mentions that when paragraphs have no topic sentence, the author has decided to let the supporting details suggest the main idea. The unstated main idea is implied, and you must figure it out by deciding on the point of the supporting details. In order to do that, Langan suggests 5 steps for finding implied main ideas. So let's start with the first step, recognizing implied general ideas. He states that learning how to find unstated general ideas or subjects is a helpful step in finding unstated main ideas. Let's start practicing. Read the following list of specific ideas and then choose the letter of the general idea that best covers them. The answer will be the subject to which all of the specific ideas belong. Specific ideas: baseball cap, football helmet, and Easter bonnet. The options for the general idea are the following. Letter A, sports hats. Letter B, clothing. Letter C, hats. Now let's analyze. Since an Easter bonnet is not a sports hat, answer A is wrong because it is too narrow to cover all the specific ideas. It is true that all the specific ideas are items of clothing, but they have no more in common than that. They are only items of clothing worn on the head. Thus, answer B is much broader than necessary. So, answer C is the correct choice because hats covers all the specific ideas. Langan points out that when you are looking for the general idea, you have to remember these points. Number 1, the general idea must cover all of the specific ideas. Number 2, the general idea must not be so narrow that it excludes any of the specific ideas. And number 3, a general idea that covers many kinds of specific ideas other than the kinds in the list is too broad. Now it is time for you to practice with similar exercises taken from the book 10 Steps to Building College Reading Skills. Read the following group of specific ideas. Then choose the letter of the general idea that tells what the specific ideas have in common. Keep in mind that the correct general idea will not be too narrow or too broad. The specific ideas are blueberries, strawberries, cranberries, cherries, and peaches. Now, which is the general idea? There are 3 options. Letter A, foods. Letter B, fruits. Letter C, berries. You may pause the video, choose one, then come back to verify your choice. If you chose letter B, that is correct. Langan explains that letter A is too broad. Too broad means that the idea covers much more than the specific ideas. And letter C is too narrow. That means that the idea doesn't cover all of the specific ideas. As a step number 2, Langan suggests that we put implied general ideas in our own words. He points out that now that you have practiced recognizing general ideas, you are ready to practice stating such ideas on your own. Let's take a look at an example that he presents in his book, 10 Steps to Building College Reading Skills. Consider the 4 specific ideas and then decide on a general idea that is neither too broad nor too narrow. The specific ideas are orange juice, water, milk, and blood. Langan explains that at first glance, it might seem that the general idea of these specific ideas is beverages, but blood does not fall into that category. So, you must use a broader general idea to include blood. Thus, the general idea here is liquids. In the following list of specific ideas are given, but the general ideas are unstated. Decide on a general idea that is neither too broad or too narrow. The specific ideas are pop, hard rock, classical, and soul. Pause the video, think a couple of minutes in the general idea, then play it back again so you can check your answer. The unstated general idea in this list of specific ideas is kinds of music. Let's complete one more exercise. In this opportunity, the specific ideas are siren, whistle, shout, and buzz. One more time, you can pause the video, think a couple of minutes in the general idea, and then play it back again so you can check your answer. The unstated general idea is sounds or warnings. For the third step, Langan mentions that just as with an unstated general idea, your choice of an unstated main idea must not be too broad or too narrow. You must select a general statement that includes all or most of the specific ideas in a paragraph. Let's practice with an example he presents in his book, 10 Steps to Building College Reading Skills. First, read the following group of statements. Number 1, men accuse women of not trusting them. Number 2, men complain that women have little interest in sports. Number 3, men say that women change the subject when they're losing an argument. And number 4, according to men, women talk too much. Now read the following group of statements and choose the letter of the unstated idea. Letter A, men think women don't trust them. Letter B, men have various complaints about women. Letter C, men accuse women of talking too much. And letter D, men have strong positive and negative views about women. Now let's analyze. Item A is too narrow to be the unstated idea because it mentions a specific detail that is included in only one statement. In contrast to item A, item B mentions men's complaints about women in general. Each of the 4 statements is about such complaint. So, item B is the main idea because it covers all of the statements of the group. Like item A, item C is a specific detail that appears only once. So, it is also too narrow to be the main idea. Finally, item D is incorrect too The idea that men have strong positive and negative views about women is too broad to be the main idea, because it includes views about women other than just complaints. Now it's your turn. Read each group of sentences. Then choose the letter of the answer that best states the implied main idea. Number 1. The average part-timer earns $3 an hour less than the average full-time worker. Number 2. Part-time workers are easily laid off. Number 3. Most part-time workers get no fringe benefits. And number 4. Few part-timers are protected by unions. The options for the unstated main idea are the following. Letter A. Part-time workers have second-class status. Letter B. Part-timers get paid lower salaries. Letter C. Workers have numerous problems. And letter D. Part-timers make up a significant part of our working population. Now, one more time, you may pause the video to analyze your options. Then play it back to check your answer. The unstated main idea is letter A, because each of the 4 statements tells about a disadvantage of being a part-time worker. According to Langan, the next step number 4, is to work at finding unstated main ideas in paragraphs. He suggests the following example to practice step 4. Read the following paragraph and see if you can choose the statement that best expresses its main idea. Let's read. If people stop to think about the plots in children's stories, they may be surprised. Hansel and Gretel, for example, were abandoned by their father and stepmother and left to wander in a dark forest. Cinderella was treated like a slave by her stepmother and stepsisters. Little Red Riding Hood was eaten by a wild animal, and the 3 blind mice had their tails cut off by the farmer's wife. Now the options are the following. Letter A. Children's stories are about step-families. Letter B. Cinderella was treated like a slave. Letter C. Animals and children are important characters in children's stories. Letter D. Children's stories often deal with evil and violence. One more time, you may pause the video to analyze the options, then play the video again to check your answer. The unstated main idea is letter D. Why? Langan explains that an important clue to the main idea of this paragraph is the first sentence. If people stop to think about the plots in children's stories, they may be surprised. From this, we see that the main idea must do 2 things. It must, number 1, cover most of all of the details, and number 2, refer to something about those stories that could be surprising. With these ideas in mind, let's examine the 4 answer options. Letter A. Children's stories are about step-families. Only 2 of the details of the paragraph are about step-families. So, answer A is too narrow to be the main idea. Also, it is not surprising. Letter B. Cinderella was treated like a slave. Only 1 of the details in the paragraph is about Cinderella. So, answer B is too narrow to be the main idea. Letter C. Animals and children are important characters in children's stories. The detail about Cinderella has nothing to do with animals and children. Also, this answer is not surprising. Most people would expect animals and children to be common characters in children's stories. And finally, letter D. The fact that children's stories deal with very mean and violent behavior could surprise people, since many think such themes are not suited to children. And all of the examples in the paragraph are about children's stories that include evil and violence. Thus, Statement D expresses the implied main idea of the paragraph. Now it's your turn. Read the following paragraph that Langan suggests and then choose the letter of the sentence that best expresses the unstated main idea. Let's read. The Roman Emperor Nero was probably behind some of the earliest frozen desserts. He had snow brought to him from nearby mountains to cool his wine cellar. Historians believe that the snow was also mixed with fruit juices and honey. It wasn't until the 1200s, however, that the first frozen dessert made with milk reached Europe. It was introduced by Marco Polo, who brought the recipe from the Orient. Now read the four statements. Letter A. Some of the earliest non-frozen desserts were made for Nero. Letter B. The history of frozen desserts was influenced by Nero and Marco Polo. Letter C. A frozen dessert in ancient Rome consisted of snow, fruit, juices, and honey. Letter D. There are many delicious and helpful frozen desserts. Once again, pause the video, analyze the choices, and decide which statement best expresses the unstated main idea. The unstated main idea is letter B. Item C and D are too narrow. Item D is too broad. Let's finish with step 5, putting implied ideas into your own words. Langan states that when you read, you often have to figure out an author's unstated idea. The implied main idea you come up with should cover all or most of the details in the paragraph. Let's start practicing. Langan suggests the following exercise. See if you can find and write out the unstated main idea in the paragraph below. Let's read. A team of researchers surveyed patients who had suffered serious illnesses. 60 of the patients had suffered a heart attack. Another 30 were breast cancer patients. All had completed therapy for their medical conditions at the same time of the survey. Subjects were asked what positive changes had happened to them after the illness. About half reported healthy lifestyle changes, and over a quarter reported a greater appreciation of life and health, as well as improved close relationships. Other common positive changes included feeling lucky to be given a second chance and an improved understanding of others. What is the implied main idea of this paragraph? Langan explains that to find an implied idea, consider all of the supporting details. First, try to figure out the topic of the passage. In this case, all of the sentences are about one survey. So, we can say that the topic of the passage is a survey of patients. The main idea will be a summary of what the paragraph says about the survey. Here's one way of wording that main idea. A survey of patients shows that serious illnesses can have positive effects. You are now ready to try putting into your own words the unstated main ideas of paragraphs. To do so, remember that you should first look for the topic, then decide what point the author is making about that topic. We encourage you to continue practicing finding the implied main ideas in paragraphs. Thank you very much for your attention.